Yeah, so the APU test should have been done before, but okay, and then the APU is available. You can turn on the APU bleed for now, and we are good. Let's do the engine fire test. Okay, pumps can still be off. So that part is okay. Alignment is in progress. Will be in 7 minutes. So now would be a good time to get the 80s because the 80s here is not available, and it looks like that VATSIM tonight is a little bit dead, at least for the controllers. So let's just disconnect. So the airplane is powered on. The overhead panel, all whites extinguished. We can move on to the pedestal. Everything looks good there. No need for this. All the switchings are norm. Power is idle. The transponder will be done later. So this part is okay. And now we can actually get the 80s information. No, we will not touch the fuel. I'll get back to that later on. So basically the first thing I like to do is to connect to the 80s, and then basically from all the information the most important one would be the QNH, which unfortunately in Flight Simulator, if you want to use the feeds for the altimeter, and we need to use the different measurement units. So basically in Europe it's hectopascals, and in the United States it's inches of mercury, and this is inches of mercury. So basically just switch when you're using the MSFS information. We can set it to 1345, and we can see that it is the ILS runway 30 in use. Now what I like to do is, because basically I've set up the sim brief, which I'll try to share now with all of you. So here it is. I've created the flight plan there, as you can see. Now what I like to do is to actually include the charts also, and basically let me share that with you. I'm using the Navigraph. So if you take a look, here are the Navigraph on the left and the sim brief on the right. And what I like to do is, now that I have the active runway, I can actually take my flight plan from the sim brief. It will be loaded, but what often happens is that sometimes it happens that the runway that you get from the sim brief is not the actual active runway. Now in case of VATSIM, we would of course ask the controller for the IFR clearance, and he would give us the runway and also the standard instrument departure route. Unfortunately, since VATSIM is ATC is not available for this part of Europe at the moment, we are going to do it using the Microsoft Flight Simulator ATC. But in this case, the active runway is 30, so we are good. We have TISA 6 Delta standard instrument departure, or the SID, and then we go to TISAC. From there, we continue our route all the way to Zurich. So, since this is good, we can go back and actually initialize our MCDU. Since I'm using the fly-by-wire mode, we can just go directly to ATSU, then AOC, and then actually this is much easier. So you just go to init, you say the init request, this will contact the sim brief, download the sim brief flight, and it will actually insert the full flight plan from the sim brief. I'm not sure, I'm using the custom fly-by-wire, so some things may be not correctly, and while we're doing that we need to confirm the alignment of our current position now. Also and of course I forgot to hide the charts, but we can leave the sim brief there like this. So basically here is the option to request init request from the sim brief, and you can also do that by going to add tool, deck out menu, then you go to init, and then you do the init data request, and this will actually load the information from the sim brief. So the cost index is for some reason missing. It's usually there, but if we go to the sim brief, scroll a bit down, we will see that our cost index is 21, so we can just insert it manually, right? Iris IRS init has been executed, so we are good there. Now we proceed from the init to the flight plan, and first we want to verify that all the waypoints are actually present and correct. We do that by switching the navigation display to plan mode. We can actually change the range a bit so that we can see better, and as we can see, we start from the Lybe, which is, and basically this GPS primary means that our IRS is now aligned. So I'll get that a little bit later on. Basically, we start from the Lybe. Our first waypoint is Tisak, then we are going to Dimlo, and now we have a problem because, as you can see, it goes now to Tondo, and then from Tondo it goes to Erkir, Kogol, KPT, Raved, Etoksu, Negra, and then to the Zurich airport. But let's solve this mystery here. So it says Tisak, it says Dimlo, and then it says Tondo, and then it says Erkir. So something is wrong there. So if we check the, and what I like to do is basically check the navigraph. So on our navigraph we have Tisak here, then we have Tondo, and then we have Dimlo, and then we have the Erkir. So it's Tisak, Tondo, Dimlo, Erkir, and for some reason, let's go back to the, let's go back to our MCDU. It's Tisak, Tondo. As you can see, it goes Tisak, Dimlo, Tondo, which is actually incorrect because it should be the other way around. So what we can do is we can say clear Dimlo. This will basically delete it, and then we can actually say Dimlo after Tondo. So should this do the trick? And now you can see that we have two, but we know that it is the closer one. So we just select. Now we have Tisak, Tondo, Erkir. Ah, okay, my mistake. So not here, but basically Dimlo goes off, and now I've messed it up. So let's just say erase, it goes back. Okay, so clear Dimlo, and now we add Dimlo after Tondo, the closer one. Tisak, Tondo, and now Dimlo should appear here between the Tondo. Yeah, so Tondo, Dimlo, Erkir. We can do the insert, and if we now check our route, now it makes sense. These three actually waypoints doesn't make sense, but let me check. No, actually they're good. They're actually the last one is Nigra, which is the standard approach route. So this is our star that we will be using to get to the Zurich airport. And after this initial flight plan configuration, we can switch back to the ARC if we want. As you can see, the IRS has aligned, so this is live. From here, the radial navigation can remain the same, or if you want just to have as additional help, you can add additional VORs here. Since we are flying the IFR using the GPS, we will not be using that. And for the Lszh frequency, we will actually get the approach from the ATC once we get closer to the Zurich. So this will be actually populated by the MCDU and the flight data system once we enter and select our arrival, but we don't know the arrival yet. What we do know from the sim brief and what we would get from the VATSIM controller if we were using the VATSIM and it was online is our departure. So we already know that. So if you're using the VATSIM, just ask for the permission from the ATC and they will give you the runway, they will give you the SID that you need to fly, and then you would configure this. In our case, we can do this before we actually ask for the IFR clearance, because we know that the 30 is the active runway, and we know that our first waypoint is TISAC, so it will be one of the TISA standard instrument departures. And since we loaded SimBrief chart, we can see that it's actually suggesting TISA 6 Delta SID. So we can just do the insert, and that will basically, as you can see, connect you all the way to your regular. So now basically you can again double check the plan. I like to do it more often just to make sure. So now this is good. So it's not directly to TISAC, it's actually using the standard instrument, which is nice. Okay, so flight plan for now is done. We don't have fuel prediction still filled in. So what we can do is we can go to ATSU, AUK, then we can go to the performance and weight and balances. And the fly-by-wire mode gets this from the sim brief. So we just click load, and what I like to do, this would actually be great if there was a print option, but there's not, so I like to write a few information down on the paper just to make it quick. So our block fuel is 8.0 tons, and now we can do the load, and you can see that the fuel on board is there. And we can see that there's an X screen. So here we can say load, and this will basically load all the payload, forward and rear baggage, and make sure that the zero fuel weight center of gravity is 30. So the information we need is the zero fuel weight for this flight, and it will be 58.4, and the zero fuel weight central gravity, which will be 30. And we have 167 passengers on board. As you can see, now the ground weight has been calculated and loaded into the sim, so we are fine. We need to go to the init B, that's this page. We need to enter zero fuel weight, which as we saw is 58.4. Zero fuel weight central gravity is 30. Put it there. We need to add our block fuel, which is 8 tons, and also for the better precision, we need to go to the SimBrief page and then basically use this. So the minus means that we are going to have the wind, the headwind, and it will be average 61 knot. And if this said, if the minus wasn't present, so if it was like this, so the P, it would mean that we would have a tailwind. So since it's a headwind, our wind will be H or HD, Hotel Delta 61. And we can basically, sorry, so again, I forgot to share with you. So this one, this is the information we need for the initialization. And now we can go here and we can actually say headwind 61, and this will change our extra time and correct our fuel calculation. That's it. After the init B page, we go to the performance page, and here there are a couple of things that we need to do. We are going to use the flaps 1 configuration because it's a pretty long runway. Now for flex to temp, this is basically reduction of full thrust during takeoff, so it will not use the absolute full thrust that is capable, that engines are capable to provide. It will actually use the reduced one, and for this I like to use a tool I found. I'm not really sure if it's correct, but until now it worked nicely. So let me share it with you that. Okay, here it is. And there's no need to be this large, so let's do it like this. So here you say what is your departure, airport. You ask for the meter information, it will populate it. You configure 1+F flaps configuration for takeoff, PAX on during COVID if you want to simulate the real thing, but basically you just select on or off based on your takeoff configuration. Now, anti-ice in our case, since the temperature outside is -7, I would propose and I would go for the engine anti-ice. Runway is going to be dry because there's no rain or anything, no snow, nothing, so it's a dry runway. Our actual takeoff weight, we can take the estimated takeoff weight from the sim brief. Runway is 30. We will use the full runway, and then it will say, okay, your heading is, and now I messed it up, but never mind. So your heading is 298, and the takeoff runway available is 3000 meters. So we are good. Also, if you're using A320 fly-by-wire, it is a CFM engine. That's also important to select. And basically that's it. You just say calculate, and it provides you with the flex temperature of 58 for our departure, and it gives you your V1, V2, and V rotate. V1, V rotate, and V2, and it is 150, 150, and 151. Now, I like to use these numbers. Fly-by-wire mode is capable of calculating this number for you. I'll show you both possibilities. So if we go here, we know that our flex temp is 58, so we add it here. Engine out, acceleration and thrust reduction, and I can show you that in the Navigraph there is a procedures document where you can double check for your departure and for your runway what the values are if you want to be actually accurate. Usually they are higher for preventing like high levels of noise, things like that. In our case, for now, we are not going to change it. Transition altitude. Transition altitude is an altitude and not the flight level. That's the important thing. transition altitude is given by the controller or is defined for the airport. In our case, flight simulator, basically everything up to 18,000 feet is an altitude, and then you switch to the standard baro setting to 2992. So if you're not using VATSIM, I just put the 18,000 here. And now, if you want to let the fly-by-wire mode to calculate V1s, VR, and V2, you can just click here. It will tell you the numbers, and then you can double click again, and it will insert the number. For some reason, these numbers are almost always a lot less. It's always around 133 for the airport I'm now on. I like to use the ones calculated by that site. Not that there is any I haven't had any issues with taking off using the lower values. It's just my thing to use this one and not the ones calculated there. So we are done with the performance. Our prog page says that our flight level for cruise will be flight level 360. We have high accuracy of the GPS, so there we are good. And by doing this, we are now done with the configuration of the flight management system. Next thing that we need to do is basically talk to the controller. 118.3, and we can ask for IFR clearance. We will get the information, and now we can just go to 5, enter the squawk code 34. And I like to do this before acknowledging, because if you just go to the acknowledge, it will auto-populate it. In VATSIM situation, you would need to write down this information about the initial climb. You'll need to provide the ATIS information that you have. So it's a bit more work, and you need to write it down, but when you're using MSFS ATC, it's much easier. So let's go here. Let's enter. We have been granted to initial climb to 10,000 feet. Takeoff runway 30, as we said, and the departure frequency is 120.425. So 120.425. It's there. Now I like to switch them because sometimes when I change VHF, and if I just select it but not actually swap them, at least once it will get reset to some other value. And what I know for this airport is that 118.1 is the tower. So I like to get it prepared here so that later on I can just basically say the call, or I can go here and then go for the tower frequency when I need to request takeoff clearance. But for now, if you see, by changing the tab, you're actually changing the call button, so that's great. Anyway, that's done. We got the clearance. Let's lock the cabin. We got all the papers, and the jetway is still connected. So we're pretty much ready to go. Ask for the jetway, disconnect. And now what we know is that if you're familiar with the airport, if not, I'll give you the hint how to know which side you to turn. I am familiar with this airport, so I know that the 30 is that way, meaning that I'll ask for pushback and then rotation to the right. So I want my nose to be pointed on the left. I need to ask for the pushback right turn, and then my tail is going to go right. Now, because it's a terrible pushback service here. I turned off the audio of the ATC. That way pushback works a lot quicker, and you'll see that. So we are ready for the pushback and startup. And now ask for the pushback. If you're on WATSIM, ask for pushback and startup approval. Once you receive it, you can do the pushback. And basically pushback means we are also good to go to start engines. Turn on all the pumps. APU bleed is on. Engine mode selector start, and we can start the engine number 2. Trick I do to know when the pushback has actually started is when I see it like move a little bit, and there you go. So now I release the park rake. If it was a real thing, the ground would said to us, hey, release the parking brakes, we are ready for pushback. And unless you want to cheat and go for the outside camera, I have a couple of markers that I like to use when doing pushbacks, and pretty much you would see it here that it is time to steer the aircraft to the right. And now we are turning the tail to the right and nose is turning to the left. That's good. I can actually now dim the light or turn it. Let's dim it. Okay, so engine number 2 has been successfully started. We can now start the engine number 1. That's good. Also, we can put the ATC to auto, and we can do the altitude reporting. We'll handle other stuff a little bit later. So as you can see, here's the taxiway. We just need it to be aligned. Well, it's almost never perfect for me, so this is good enough because here's the taxiway. We'll wait for the ground crew to actually move away from the aircraft before we turn the lights on. So there goes the ground crew. We can now set the parking brake, configure the flaps for takeoff. As you can see in takeoff, this means both flaps and the slats extended. Engine is still, number 1 is still starting, but we can actually arm the ground spoiler. The TCAS will be configured prior to takeoff, also the predictive wind shear and the radar system. Later on, we need to check the flight controls. Now, I'm skipping, you can use the checklist for this, I'm just skipping it. So, full left, full right, neutral, full down, full up, neutral, full left, full right, neutral. Flight controls check complete. Both engines are running. Engine mode selector back to norm. APU bleed off. And master switch APU off. Strobe. And now we can turn all the lights. Can turn the flight directors on. Put them in constraint mode. Auto brake put to max for rejected takeoff. And that's it for now. Let's ask for taxi clearance. Okay, so we actually got the Alpha taxiway all the way down to the beginning of the 30 runway, and then we'll take off from there. So let's go. Add a little bit of thrust, and parking brake is off. Add a little bit more. Can also start the engine IT ice. Now that we got it rolling, it should roll on its own basically. As you can see, this is Bravo that we are turning to, and then if we go left or right, it is Alpha. We need to go right because the 30 is on the right. Check left, left clear, right is clear, turn. And now we can continue with the before takeoff. So cabin ready. Sometimes it needs to be done multiple times, but there you go. Predictive wind shear is on, radar is on, TCAS all, TA RA, and we can do the takeoff config. So before takeoff, checklist complete. ECAM memo, no blues. So we are good. We're a little bit fast, so let's slow down. We don't need lights anymore, at least not for now. So let's switch to the tower. And basically, because we have nothing else to do and we are ready for takeoff, we'll try to get it without full stop, just rolling and then takeoff. Flaps check, specs are on. Anti-ice is also on. Just need to slow down enough so that we get an option. Come on, come on, come on. There you go. Clear for takeoff, acknowledge, and that's it for now. Basically, we can turn the takeoff light. Let's go for the rolling one. As you can see, my thrust is already near 50, and now we have 50% of N1 stabilized, just a little bit of pitch down, and I usually miss the flex. Here it is. Can release. Little bit of rudder. And V1 rotate. Positive rate of climb. Gear up. Go for like 15%. We can actually disarm the ground spoilers because we won't need them. Still climbing. And it says level climb, so we go a notch down. Now we actually reduce the angle, or we reduce the pitch so that we gain speed. Don't forget that. Okay. Flaps, speed checked. There you go. Nice. Actually, this custom fly-by-wire works pretty nice, I must say. Yeah, that's my joystick having issues. Happens sometime. So, needs to turn soon, but let's use the time to take off this. Yes! Thing that I always forgot. And that is to actually nice. Switch to departure. Now, if you have a real ATC, you won't forget it because you'll hear it, but in this case, there's just a lot of things that I need to do. So, we are good. Okay, still climbing. Acknowledge, yes, we have. I'm going for the 12,000 feet. Handoff. Okay, contact Belgrade. Continue as expected. 3045, that's good. We're pretty good. Let's go. And soon comes the turn. Now, it's usually pretty sharp with this flight director, so I just like to start my turn a bit before. Huh, interesting. It doesn't tell me to turn at all, even though I can see that, well, I need to turn. We have passed 10,000 feet. Autopilot on. For some reason, sometimes it doesn't remember. You actually need to click, not only to select the altitude for it to be armed. So, lights off. We are over 10,000 feet. it just leveled off to gain the speed to 290. Now it will continue the climb. We can turn off the seat belts, also the signs, and since there is no ice detected, I usually turn off the anti-ice, even though outside temperature is -6. And well, that's pretty much it. Yeah, switch to airport and crank it up to see the route. Flight level 180, we switch to standard and we go to 180. And basically this is all that we'll get from the flight sim. So because we know that our planned altitude for cruise is flight level 360 and we got 180, we need to ask for additional 18,000 feet, so we ask for 280. They tell us climb flight level 180, expect flight level 280, but you can either way go once again and ask for 8,000 more. It will tell you climb flight level 180, expect flight level 360, you acknowledge. And then basically, once you get to the 18,000 feet, most probably you won't get, especially since we are not yet passing our first waypoint, so we are still on the standard departure route. It probably won't go directly to flight level 360, it will be more like flight level 220 to 40, and then probably, at least it never happened to me that I get flight level that I asked for straight away. But the good thing about the flight simulator is that if you ask for the flight level 360, he'll take your step climbs up to the flight level that you ask. So you ask it for once and then just follow the ATC. See, you got the flight level 290. We got a pretty strong crosswind, so as you can see, the difference between our heading and our track is like 12 degrees. All lights off, thrust lever climb, mode selector normal, flaps. So, very good. Performance says that we are in a climb. Let's see if we can see the airport, maybe. Nope. No, unfortunately we can't. Now this is pretty strong wind, and basically what you can do, and what I like to do, is let me just show you that. I like to go here, and then I can say show me the wind, and it gives you the wind at flight level 340, which is a pretty strong one. 300 still strong. 390 is a little bit weak. So since we are in 360, it should be fine, but let's follow up. And then basically, as you can see, the highest wind is actually on flight level 280, so and it's directly on our path, so it's a direct headwind. And you can see that our ground speed is pretty rather low, but since we are going to fly to the flight level 360, let's just wait for the full climb and then make a decision if we want to change our cruising altitude. For now, just keep climbing. If nothing interesting happens during the remaining climb and the cruise, I'll just cut this part and then go directly to the approach and top of descent, basically. If anybody in the future watches this integral version of the video, what I'm checking is basically the current time, which is half an hour past midnight, and the estimated arrival. Now, take into consideration that we did not enter our star, so this is basically, if you would go from the last waypoint directly to the airport, which will not happen, so it will be more, but it's a good reference point. So we have 45 minutes of flight to go. The good thing is that soon you can actually check SimBrief. Did I? So you can check the SimBrief and let's find our top of descent. And the top of descent should be, if you check in the flight plan, so our top of descent should be 8 miles past Kempton, and because we added it as a VR, once we get there we'll be able to capture the distance, and then we'll know when it is our time for a descent. But since we're using the Microsoft Flight Simulator, ATC, they'll give us the descent clearance, I'm guessing, further away. So, but if you do not use the flight simulator ATC, but you work with the VATSIM or any other ATC network, in that case you'll need to calculate your top of descent. Although usually ATC controllers does provide initial descent either way, so Okay, we can now start preparing. Let's see. So we have acquired the VOR signal. We are 100 nautical miles away on an inbound course. Let's just double check that. As you can see, yeah, so that's good. First thing we should do now is actually get the weather in Zurich. So we can take the current meter. Now, the good thing about the fly-by-wire mod is that we can actually turn on this floodlight, and we already received the meter, so we can go here and we can basically print it. Now, why is this good? Collect it, because now you can go to the performance, to the approach, and we can see that in Zurich the current weather is pretty calm. So we have 6 knots from 20 degrees. That is basically northeast. So we can enter that wind. Hate when this happens. So it's 26. We see that the visibility is great. We have broken clouds on 3000 feet. The current temperature is -7 degrees Celsius. And the current QNH is 1027. Transition altitude, again, you would receive the transition level from the ATC, but since we are using the Microsoft Simulator ATC, it's going to be 18,000 feet. We're going to use the full configuration. And as for the minimums, that will depend basically on the approach we receive. So, but if we go to the chart, I can do some guessing basically. And this is what I like to do. So I go to chart. Here's the chart. And I say, okay, so the wind is coming from 20, which is basically from like this. And we want to land on a headwind. So let's see, there are multiple runways: 10, 14, 16, 28, 32. Sorry, 10, 14, 10, 14, 16, 28, 32, and 34. So I'll gamble our chances on the runway 28 to be active. It's a short one, but let's go for that. And then we can say, okay, we are going to have approaches to 28. Let's say that we are going to do the ILS runway 28 from the Amici. Amici is basically the last. So we're going from Nigra 1 Alpha. Nigra 1 Alpha to approach for ILS 28 using Amici transition. Let's just see how would this go. So approach and then for this approach, as you can see, 74 inbound course, and the minimum for the ILS would be for class D and 4% glide slope. Just give me a second. Be 2094. So I would gamble with that. Let's say 2094. So 2094 MDA. But remember, that's for the runway 28, and we'll see which arrival are we going to receive and which transition. Turn this off. That's pretty close, or not. I love the level of details, like this heat coming from the exhaust of the engines. Just let's go back to the pilot seat. I'll definitely record a video. I want to try this. So basically you can do the fly-by-wire and the simulator to fly the route using the GPS, and then when you activate the approach and enter the approach, it should look like this. But I usually have an issue with flying on the autopilot using the GPS, the approaches. So what I'm going to record once, I'm not sure I'm going to do it now because I'm pretty tired and it's too late, is basically once you get your star, you can switch and fly it using the VORs. So here I already tuned the Zurich East VOR as a VOR1. You can see we are 83 nautical miles from it. So we fly the course 275 to the Zurich East. Then we fly 052 to Kloten. Then we do the turn, and then we fly radial 334 all the way up to 12.5 nautical miles. Let's just follow the descent we got. Hate this. We are in the descent to flight level 220. Good. So you fly basically the radial, and then on 12.5 you turn and intercept. Basically, you intercept the localizer on 135 back to Klo. There you can intercept the localizer for the runway and then fly the localizer, or in this case you can fly the whole ILS. Yeah, I switched. But as I said, now I'm just going to run it by the instruments and then maybe cut some shortcut on the final. But we can actually make those plans once we get the approach, and we won't get approach until we get to the last waypoint, which is Nigra. So we can sit tight and wait and move on from there. And the only thing I'm going to do now is basically once we approach the minimums and I have the visual of the runway, I'm going to turn off the autopilot and land manually by hand. I'm not sure if the auto land is implemented in this version of the mod. I know they are working on it, but I'm not sure if it's working right now. So by the way, guys, I'm not a pilot, so the shortcuts I make and the decisions I make are on the go based on my previous experience on the sim, not on some guidance or the rule book. So take it with a grain of salt, please. After all, it's a simulator, so it's forgiving for our mistakes. But other than the approach, we are ready, so we took the meter report, we entered it into our approach phase, and it calculated that our landing speed should be 124, our approach speed 129. We just got clearance to descend to 10,000 feet, and this is what Flight Simulator get wrong, and that is it gave us 10,000 feet, it did not give us the barrow parameters, but we know that on the airport it's 1027 hectopascals, so we'll go with that. And then if the flight sim detects that we are deviating from our given altitude, it will actually give us the correction, and it will tell you, hey, you are this 100 feet above or below, and this is the altimeter. So that's the first moment you can get it. And alternative would be to actually tune in to the 80s, but the range of the 80s is not that great, so I can get from the Navigraph the 80s frequency, which is what 25.73. So 25.73, and I can plug it in here. 2573, and what I can do then, I can actually monitor it, and in theory I should get it. Ah, nice. So that works. So now we can confirm from the 80s the current QNH. Perfect. Let's do this. So we are 12 miles from the VR2. We don't need it anymore, actually. We need the other VOR, and that is CLO. So let's go there. Let's see. There's 162, so we know it's this one. And our approach for, again, 1.4 is that we are going to fly the inbound course of 5.2 to the Cloten. So let's add it here. Now if we switch to the VOR, you can see there are two, but you can just turn off it. That's good. For now, doesn't matter. Let's go to ARC. And yeah, the QNH is 3027. And the runway 14 is in use. Landing and departing runway is 14. That's perfect. That means we are good. We still need to receive the approach, but we know that it is going to be the runway 14. I just want to change this to set it to the correct one. 3027. 27. Can plug it in here. It has the auto detect, which is nice. So since we know it's 14, let's use that. We know that the ILS minimum is 1602. We know that from the chart. So 1602 is the minimum. We can refresh the meter, but doesn't matter at this moment. 1.4 final approach course, and the ILS is EKL. So EKL. Radar nav, we can put it here. Not allowed. Why not? So it should be 111.75, 111, 111.75. And we know that the inbound course is 135 for this runway. It won't let us. Interesting. What? It's 34? When did this change? And it's a different QNH. But it's also Quebec. Nice. We can see here that we got the correct 80s. Now, I didn't check this previously. It could be that we got the different 80s on this frequency, but that also doesn't make sense. So let me just double check the QNH. We are on a 10,000. Let's turn on the seat belt. No devices. Turn on the lights. QNH 3033. So 3033. There you go. Let's go here. Next 3033 QNH. Done. And since it is 34, we need to load the approach for the 34 using a Mickey transition. Same VORs, different courses. So let's see the chart. It is 275, it is 232 to close. So radial navigation is 232 to close. Okay, so what we have received? We have received the ILS 34 approach via a Mickey transition. Cleared to a Mickey. We can go to the flight plan, select our destination, arrival, ILS 34 using a Mickey transition, and now we need to select the star, and we know that we come from Nigra, so it will be Nigra 1 Alpha using a Mickey transition. Nigra 1 Alpha, insert. Let's check the flight plan. Yes, flight plan has changed. So that should be okay. This is a bit weird, although, but I mean, it's okay. Zurich. Let's call them. They'll give us the QNH, which is good. We are actually going to, we don't need to activate it because it will be activated here. Hand us to the approach. Continue to Mickey as planned. So once we pass this point, the approach phase should be activated, and it should already be populated, except that the ILS minimums is 1624. So it is 1624. No. Okay, let's activate approach, confirm. And all this does is it will change our speed. So as you can see, it will go to the green ball. That's, and just be careful. Sometimes if you enter the approach too late, the autopilot is going to go directly for the runway. So just follow up on the waypoint transitions and the flight plan. But for now, we're good. So we're good. We're going for the Mativ, then a Mickey, then Zurich is just actually this should look good. Let me just double check that. So we should soon intercept this course. Now it's again the ILS 14. I mean, okay, not perfect, definitely. Because it can't be Quebec for the 1.4 and the Quebec for 3.4 doesn't make sense. But now we know that flight sim has a bug. And when you select your approach and the runway, it will actually automatically update the frequency of the ILS, so you don't need to worry about that. Let me just turn this off. I'll need this light later on. Also, you can now activate or dearm the speed brake and define, let's just see what is the runway length. The runway length is 3,700 meters, so we don't need medium, we can go for low brakes. Also, we don't need 80s anymore. What's going on here? He's doing the turn on the Mickey. Not sure why, but okay. I mean, it is a procedural turn. I just don't see it on the chart at all. I'm not sure what what this mod is doing. But let's give it a chance. A bit more, and if that doesn't help, well, in that case, we'll just use the track knob. Why is it moving to left? Fine, let's see if it's going to do the right turn now. Nice. Okay, it's going back for the Mickey. And from a Mickey to should get on 275. Let's see if that. Okay. Please go straight. Thank you. And also the airport should be on the left. Yep, there's the airport, and this is our runway. Why is it turning again? Okay, it's going to align for the Mickey, fine. I would think is that he actually is going to slow down, but that again doesn't make really sense. And this far away we can still go 250. So I'll just speed it a bit. Let me just check the chart if it says anything. Actually it says maximum 230. So just speed it up a bit. But this is weird, because this is our VOR1. This should be this is the LS, that doesn't matter. Okay. So going for Songi. And basically on this downwind leg will I actually return to the managed speed and start configuring. I won't configure the flaps 1 until the base, and then we can on the final actually do the rest. For Mickey to go left. And here is the so here is the Zurich East VOR, but he's actually going for interesting. Either my chart is not okay, or I'm missing something out, but basically this is not by the chart. Because there's no song in the chart, and the first waypoint should be Zurich East VOR, then Cloten VOR, then left turn for Zurich 726, and Zurich 726 is all the way down there. So it should have been like this, and then this, and then here, and then the right turn for final. So not sure how this trajectory got, but okay. So maintain 8,000. Okay. Let's follow that. And basically our entrance is at 6,000 feet to intercept the localizer, and it is 13.2 miles from the runway. That's the final point where we should intercept. Just want to double check. Here's the Zurich, and I believe that go to constraints. And this is interesting. It says 7,000 all the way to final, where you can actually go for 6,000. So maintain 7,000. There's the airport. Now we are turning downwind. Still keeping 230 because this plane can actually slow down rather quickly. And that clicking is me alt-tabbing to the chart. So and yes, we have a restriction, and that is that we cannot turn to final with speed greater than 210 knot, since we are rather away, and we are going to land with a little bit of a tailwind, just to take into the consideration. Nice. I can definitely say that this fly-by-wire mod and their custom flight plan and autopilot are working pretty great. $340, and then Utixo, Milny. Yes, this one looks good. So Utixo is basically our localizer interception. It's 13.2 miles away. Let's put it in manage, which will bring us down to 210. And that's good. I still want to... Yeah, so the correct course is loaded. So even though you cannot enter the course, you can... When you select the approach, it will populate it correctly. Now these courses should be followed, but for any reason the flight plan says otherwise. And we'll stick with the flight plan because we're going for the autopilot ILS intercept, localizer intercept. So that's fine. Let me just see the go around procedure. Initial climb clearance 5,000 feet, climb straight ahead at 5.5 from IZS past the station, turn left, maximum speed 185 knot to intercept 259 Zurich, radial 259 Zurich East. Continue to climb to 7,000 and then proceed to Gipol and hold. So, in order to prepare for the go around, we need IZS VOR IZS VOR instead of Cloten. What is it, an NDB? No, it can't be the NDB. But then it's 5.5 miles from the runway. I don't see other option. Then we turn left, 259 radial from Zurich, east, 259. But it is 259 a radial, meaning it is 259 radial. Can't calculate it even in my head, so 259 radial minus 360, it is course 101. 101. So we need to do that. And we can actually is, and Cloten is radial 333 because we are following the runway heading. No, it's a 333 radial. It's course 27. So So 5-point file from the runway, straight ahead, climb 5000, turn left with a maximum speed of 185 knot, intercept radial 259 Zurich, continue climb to 7000 and proceed to Schiphol. So that's our go around. And we have the initial climb to 5000 so that we can actually configure the go around. We go to the 5000, 7,000. Good. We are approaching the base turn. Nothing from the controller, which is fine. Max 210, we are on 210. I'll just turn off the VORs and enable the landing. I think my simulator will crash soon, but let's hope that won't be the case. Yeah. Keep speed below 2000 knot is the instruction, so I'll actually just keep it managed and activate flaps 1. So run on the S, which is 190, so we're good. And here comes the turn to base. Nice. We are on base. There's the runway. We should be 16.4 miles. So, and this is 13 miles, remember, from the chart. So, speed is good, altitude is good, configuration is good. Brake set, speed brake set. Feel pretty much good. Yeah. Descent 6,000. Good. There you go. Please don't die. Okay, turning for final. Nice. Still descending. We are below the glide slope, which is perfect, because then we can arm the approach and it will intercept the glide slope nicely. Now, let's see, I do not want to arm it before we get the clearance. But then again, I don't want to overshoot it. There you go. We got the approach. We can arm the approach. Contact tower. We are clear to land. Perfect. Okay, so localizer intercepted, glide slope locked. Now we can actually continue our go around altitude. And that's it. We are on the localizer. We have a crosswind, as you can see. Now, as we can see, the crosswind, it's not really a big deal. We're still intercepting the localizer, so it needs to get here. And then because our course is 333, this is probably ice. Yes, okay. Engine ice on. The point is, we need to keep the track aligned with the course during our descent. For now, let's keep the autopilot. We got the clearance to land, so we can start the light, although we don't have the extended gear, but we can proceed to flaps 2, speed. No, we are all in overspeed for now. We're overspeeding with 210. Okay, let's apply the brakes. Because we want that speed to come down. That's our speed bar. And our gear extension is 280, so we can actually extend them and then they'll slow us down. Arm. Nice. We can now extend the flaps one more step, which is also nice. We are 5 miles from runway. Nice. Once we get down to 180. What else? The light says good. can now go for more flaps. We can actually go full flaps now. There it goes. And I hate to do the crosswind landing because I don't have other pedals. Okay, let's do the cabin check. And that looks nice. Our minimum is 1.624, but we already have it. It's below the glide slope. That's interesting. Let's turn off the autopilot for now. Let's pull back a little bit on the stick. More. Just be careful. Okay, here we go. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. We keep the crab angle. Okay, reduce a little bit, reduce a little bit. Let's go, pull back on the stick. Oh, that's totally away from the... Nice. Oh. No. I don't want to use the reverse thrust. Well, we landed. It wasn't near the perfect, but that glide slope actually surprised me. Okay. Okay. Let me just disengage the brakes. Disarm the spoilers, retract the flaps, turn off, start the APU. Okay, we're going to turn the next taxiway. The ATC tells us to turn the next taxiway, which we will do. Contact ground. Taxi to the gate. All right. Is so we can now start the APU. Sorry, I'm trying to steer and do everything else in the same time. Not a really good idea, but hey. Okay, let's slow down. We can now turn off the TCAS, turn on this. Okay, there's our gate. Slow down even more. Good. The APU is still starting. It's available. Turn on the APU bleed. We can actually turn off engine number 2. Start the electric pump. We can turn off this and this and this and this and this. There you go. And there's a truck parked in the place where we need to turn. Ah, it's not good. So here it is. Let's turn, 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 turn. Okay, parking brake set. Engine number 1 turned off. And let's go all the way to dark. So the electric pump, that's good. We'll actually wait for the engine to spool down before we turn off the beacon, but we can turn off the lights to stop blinding people. Okay, nice. Don't need this. We have the external power which is on. That's interesting. Pump off. No, sorry. So these pumps are used by the APU. And if you ask how I know that, basically if you get here and you get into the fuel, you'll see that these pumps are connected to the APU. Now I don't know if it does matter, but let's say it does. Engines are down. We can turn off the beacon. We can ask for a power supply. We can ask for baggage to take our baggage away, catering service to take it, air clearer, and connect the jetway so that people can go out. Nice. Radar is off. Transponder is off. Cockpit doors unlocked. Brakes good, good. That's good. They automatically resets, which is also good. Good. Is good. All of this looks pretty good. Beacon is off. All lights are off. Seat belts off. Signs off. And wait for the disembark. In the meantime, crew supply off. ILS off, off, off. Disarm emergency exits. Oh, that's it, guys. Now when we wait for the disembark, this is good. So because the external power is on, and I always like to see, cable is connected. So APU bleed off, master switch off, start doesn't matter. Go to the APU and let's see if the bug has been fixed so that this spools down. I don't think so. Nope. So if you want to make sure, disconnect the APU generator. Now we are on external power only. And what we can do is basically turn off external power, turn off nav and lights, turn off pumps that we use for the APU, and battery off, battery off. It's silent. So, thanks a lot for following this flight, and I'll make sure to have more flights coming your way. soon. Some will be probably VR only, others will be A320 fly-by-wire mod. So thanks. Bye everyone.